Alright everybody, how we doing today? I chose a slightly different angle of the camera so you'd see less glare from the window. Anyway, really quick, before we begin, I'd just like to let you know all about the results of my research into the Extinction Rebellion. Because something about these guys, when I first read the article about them and sort of informed my viewers about them, something about them from the very beginning just felt really off. They weren't like other activist groups, so I thought maybe they were a cult or something like that. So I compared them to the Bite model. I did all the typical points of cult research, and what I found was sort of surprising, is that they're not so much a cult as they're a collective. They have a certain practice that sort of blurs the line between you and the group, between you and the collective. So you're not entirely certain where you end and the group begins. Everything about you basically becomes assimilated. The co-founder was actually talking about it in a video breakdown, in an expose on his own group. He was literally admitting to it. Your likes and dislikes become part of the group. Your viewpoint becomes part of the group. Everything about you, your entire being, becomes part of the group. You are literally married into it. And go even further, they do separate beliefs into insider-outsider doctrine by demanding that the politicians tell the truth, i.e., tell the people what we believe and teach it as the truth. About environmentalism, that is. So that is separating into insider and outsider doctrine. That is a cult practice. They are not a cult, but they are a collective. And collectives tend to be very cult-like. So it's easy to get the two mixed up. Still, collectives, since they are similar to cults, do present their own sort of danger. They can generate identity crises. Anyway, spiel over. Now let's move on to today's articles. Now, from Reason.com. The following two articles are from Reason, Free Minds and Free Markets. Now, this one says, a string of high-profile mass shootings over the past few years has spawned a movement to outlaw so-called assault weapons, in particular the popular AR-15. On January 9th, Senator Dianne Feinstein introduced a federal bill to ban assault weapons, legislation that's been depicted as life-saving, common-sense policy, because the definition of an assault weapon is totally arbitrary. Surprise, surprise. Proposals like Feinstein's latest draft bill leave shooters with plenty of equally deadly alternatives. An assault weapon is whatever is covered by an assault weapon ban, says Reason Senator Editor Jacob Sullum, author of feature story on the topic in our June 2018 issue. The criteria that are used to identify assault weapons are things that have little or nothing to do with how useful or how deadly an assault weapon is in the hands of a mass murderer. The federal government banned assault weapons in 1994 when President Bill Clinton signed a bill also sponsored by Senator Feinstein. That legislation expired 10 years later. Meanwhile, 7 states and the District of Columbia have enacted their own assault weapon bans. There's little evidence that the 1994 legislation reduced gun deaths, in part because it was mostly a symbolic gesture. Unless you really delve into the specifics of what these bills do, you don't understand how utterly arbitrary they are, says Sullum. In both the original 1994 bill and the new version of the legislation, assault weapons are classified not by what they do, but how they look. People, this is what happens when you put the responsibility of gun legislation into the hands of people who have never even handled a gun, they've never touched a gun, they don't own any guns, they're completely ignorant of how guns work. Further, I would say this is also evidence, yet another evidence that we can throw into the collective history, showing that the Democrats as a party simply can't govern. They don't know how to govern properly. Everything, unlike King Midas, who everything he touched turned to gold, these guys touch everything and it turns into shit. Everything they touch turns into shit. Moving on. Assault weapon bans typically use criteria like pistol grips, adjustable stocks, threaded barrels, and barrel shrouds to determine whether or not a gun is an assault weapon. Those features are cosmetic. You can have a gun with any one of these features and it is now an assault weapon, says Solem. Exactly the same gun without those features is not an assault weapon. In fact, there are a bunch of examples like that. To illustrate this point, compare the Ruger Mini 14 Ranch rifle with the AR-15. One looks like a hunting rifle and the other looks like a military weapon. Although the rifles have different manufacturers and lineages, for all practical purpose they are identical. They fire at the same rate, they can fire at the same caliber of ammunition, and because they have similar barrel lengths, the ballistics are almost identical, but only one is an assault weapon. Another misconception is that assault weapons are automatic firearms, which fire continuously until the trigger is released, the gun runs out of ammunition. The federal government banned the manufacture of new automatic weapons for civilian use in 1986. Most modern civilian guns are semi-automatic, which means they only fire one round per trigger pull. But if you're talking about how many rounds you get out of the gun without a certain amount of time, says Solem, any anti-automatic is going to be capable of firing the same number of rounds. Or any semi-automatic, pardon. Another myth is that the assault weapons are more powerful than the other guns. In reality, the power of a firearm depends mainly on the cartridge, not the gun. Again, compare the Ruger Mini 14 Ranch rifle to the AR-15. Both shoot the same 223 caliber bullet at the same velocity. This guy's just literally just illustrating their ignorance. Do you really want ignorant people who don't even understand guns to legislate them? I don't. Because human ignorance is one of the most dangerous things there is. Simply put, these people do not know what the hell they're doing. You should be worried. You will see lots of hunting rifles are more powerful and can do more damage at the same distance than so-called assault weapons, says Solem. One of the most common cartridges used for hunting is the .308 Winchester, which has more than double the impact force when compared to the ammunition used in an AR-15. Another common refrain is the assault weapons can fire more rounds than other guns before reloading. But it's the magazine, which is just a detachable box and a spring, that determines how many times you can fire in many guns that are not identified as assault weapons except high-capacity magazines. You can get high-capacity magazines or large-capacity magazines, meaning holding more than 10 rounds for guns that are not considered to be assault weapons, says Solem. So again, this is not a feature that distinguishes assault weapons from other kinds of guns. Banning guns solely based on appearance is counterproductive. It makes it difficult to have a good faith discussion about effective solutions to gun violence. I'm not going to say everyone should own an AR-15, says Solem, but people have the reasons for wanting to have them, and the government shouldn't be second-guessing those reasons without a very powerful justification, and the justification offered for banning assault weapons is virtually non-existent because it doesn't make sense. So there you go. It's completely arbitrary, it's cosmetic, these people have no idea what the hell they're doing. So I think that shall at least make you reconsider. And if you're still high on this, still, doesn't matter if they're ignorant, we gotta ban the guns to save people's lives. Take England into consideration, where they banned weapons, right? They banned all kinds of weapons, and yet people are still dying. They took away the guns, and people are still dying. Funny. So if they took away the guns, then how come murders are still being done? Well, they failed to take into consideration these. Knives. Stabbing weapons. Go figure, you take away the criminals' guns, they start using something else. Security theater. Does nothing to save anybody. It also puts you at the mercy of the police. Look up Meiji, Japan sometime. I'm not even kidding. That shit was crazy. But, moving on to the second article in this video, Dick's Sporting Goods destroys $5 million worth of its own assault weapons. A decision based on a poor grasp of gun technology, as we've already established. So, moving on. Dick's Sporting Goods think it has found a solution to gun violence, destroying the company's own inventory. In an interview with CBS on October 6, CEO Edward Stack revealed that Dick's had destroyed $5 million worth of assault-style weapons following the company's 2018 decision to remove them from store shelves. Stack's stance on the issue began to take form in 2012 when he decided to stop selling the popular AR-15 rifle after Adam Lanza used one to kill 27 people at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. Stack initially planned to remove the guns from store shelves quietly, but outcry from the National Rifle Association, firearm enthusiasts, and gun companies led Stack to publicly defend his decision, saying he didn't want to sell assault-style weapons that could inflict the kind of damage seen at Sandy Hook. After 2018 shootings at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, which left 17 people dead, Stack took his position a step further, announcing that Dick's would no longer sell firearms of any type to anyone under 21, and that it would pull all the remaining assault weapons from its stores 2 months later. The CEO announced his plan to physically destroy Dick's assault weapon inventory. Stack claims these decisions were prompted by the fact that Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, had purchased a shotgun from Dick's prior to his arrest. Even though it wasn't the gun he used, it could have been, Stack said, yet Dick's still sells shotguns. The backlash from the firearms industry was even bigger this time, with multiple gun companies, including O.F. Mossberg & Sons Incorporated, MNK Supply, and Springfield Armory, severing ties with the chain completely. You know what's really going to happen with this is that Dick's is going to lose business and people are going to go elsewhere. That's all. That's all that's going to happen. They're just going to lose business. This is literally financial suicide. That's it. Congratulations. That's all you've accomplished. Please enjoy the epic fail. But no, yeah. Sandy Hook shooting, take away the guns, it just becomes a Sandy Hook knifing. I'm not even kidding. He just would have used this. You're treating a symptom and not the cause. Hell, you're treating a symptom that shouldn't even be treated. The Second Amendment literally says, shall not be infringed. It is unconstitutional and illegal. They're passing illegal laws. Oh, but go figure. Democrats throwing away the Constitution because it gets in the way of their narrative. Well, that's nothing new. And of course the left isn't going to accept any input from the NRA, since the left in general tends to demonize and turn conservatives or right-wingers into the enemy. They do it all the time. They don't even want to consider the possibility that someone else's point of view might be valid. Anyway, destroying $5 million in gun inventory does not seem to be affecting Dick's bottom line. This past August, Dick's posted its best earning quarter in 3 years. It probably won't affect crime much either. A 2018 analysis by the RAND Corporation found no qualifying study showing that bans on the sale of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines decreased any of the 8 outcomes we investigated, including mass shootings. Those results should be surprising. When people say assault weapons, they usually mean the guns banned by 1994's Public Safety and Recreational Firearm Use Protection Act, which expired in 2004. The law classified certain weapons as assault weapons for reasons as simple as being a specific brand, such as Kalashnikov, or bearing a combination of certain physical characteristics, such as folding stocks and threaded barrels. As reasons Jacob Sullum has noted, these features have no impact on a weapon's lethality. The functional capabilities of an AR-15 and a standard hunting rifle are the same. Both are semi-automatic weapons, firing 1 bullet per pull of the trigger. And yes, Dick still stocks and sells semi-automatic rifles that aren't considered assault weapons. Unsurprisingly, those are sometimes used in mass shootings. The Ruger 1022 available at Dick's was used in a massacre at Cascade Mall in Burlington, Washington in 2016. Stack acknowledged that the new policy won't stop mass shootings, saying, "You're probably right, it won't, but if we do these things and it saves one life, don't you think it's worth it?" It's unclear what life he thinks it saves to stop selling one arbitrary defined group of weapons while continuing to offer mechanically identical products. Stack may need to brush up on how the guns he sells work. The ignorant don't know they're ignorant. So yeah, there you go. Should these people be allowed to legislate guns? No. Will this actually save anyone's lives? No. Is this a giant waste of time and is going to kill Dick's Sporting Goods business, and so they'll be making pennies instead of dollars? Yes. Case closed, my friends. Don't give in to the bullshit. Peace!